Welcome, lovely listeners, to SoulStirred, stories of growth and the human experience. I'm Emily Garcia.
And I'm Kasey Clark.
We will be your guides on this journey. We are so glad you are here.
Each week, we'll come together, sometimes with other incredible thinkers, creators, and adventurers, to generously share stories of self-discovery, recovery, triumph, and what it means to live a life on purpose.
No matter where you are in your own journey, connection is here for you at SoulStirred.
Settle in, take a deep breath in, and let's inspire each other.
Welcome to SoulStirred.
Hello, welcome back to Tribe Talks. Today on Tribe Talks, we are going to channel a little playfulness and curiosity and creativity to show the powerful impact that these attributes can have on building connection. And because we feel like it really is what we practice in our tribe therapy offices, is holding people in a space of curiosity and creativity, inviting them to consider what haven't we thought of? How else could we perceive this situation in a way that might have us feeling a little bit better? Emily and I are longing for connection with each other and with our SoulStirred audience. And so we're going to use playfulness and creativity to help build connection. If you could go back in time 10 years and tell yourself one thing, what would it be?
It's a good question.
Start with some context. Like, how old would you be if you went back 10 years and what was happening in your life then?
I'm 43 now.
Okay.
So 10 years ago, I was 33.
Uh-huh.
And that was right about the time that my first marriage was toward the end. And it was the hardest part. I had, on this day, 10 years ago, my son was just a few months old and I had a toddler. So my daughter was a toddler. My son was a baby. And it was one of the hardest times of my life. One of the loneliest times of my life. And I say loneliest not because I wasn't surrounded by people who loved me. I had women in my life who showed up and held me up. And I'm going to cry talking about it. It was just such a hard time. I had a story about who I was in the context of I'm a woman who has gotten an education. I was working as a therapist, working with children. I had my own children. I was married. I had planned to marry without divorce. It wasn't really a thing I had considered, but I was married to someone who didn't want to be married to me. And that meant that there were a lot of ways that I was being rejected. And I was really at a pivotal point because I had to decide if I was going to stick it out, because my story was that I'm a mom and I'm a wife and I'm married to the father of my children, or am I going to leave this all and put a stop to it? It took me another year, but ultimately that was when I said, no more, I can't do this anymore. And I didn't make the decision by myself, of course. But what was the exact question?
What would you say to her if you could tell her?
What would I say to her?
Yeah.
I would say to her, you are going to get through this pain. You're going to feel all of the pain. And the pain is actually a good thing. The pain is giving you lessons that you need in order to grow. And this pain is going to help you to help other people. And if you keep moving through this and you keep showing up for yourself, 10 years from now, you're going to be in a completely different place. You are going to have really good relationships with your children. You're going to be in a career that's totally different, even though it's still therapy, totally different than where I was then. And it's okay to end the marriage. It's okay to not be with someone who doesn't really love and adore and admire you. Because when you close that door, you're going to find that you love yourself and you admire and adore yourself. And then when you get there to that place of how you feel about yourself, you're going to invite a man in who feels that way about you as well.
Wow.
You deserve so much more than what this life is giving you right now.
How does it feel to you to hear those words right now?
Good.
Yeah.
Of course. I mean, my life is so different now than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah. Because you made it that way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it was my creating.
Yeah.
It was that I finally had to define what I needed and what I deserved. And I had to create it for myself. And so, the heartbreak I felt 10 years ago is just, I was so heartbroken. And in one way, there's like, part of me felt like I'm never going to get through this. How can I? And I was also going to my own therapist at the time. And I remember sitting down in her office. It was one of our first sessions because I was trying to figure out, do I stay in this marriage or do I leave it? I don't know what to do. And I sat down and I said, here's one thing I know. I know I'm going to end up with a man who loves me. And whether it's him or it's someone else, I know in my soul, I know it is true. And she was like, wow, I've never had a client say it with such sureness in front of me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew, but I didn't know how and I didn't know when. And I didn't know everything in between, but I knew that was a truth.
Do you remember how you knew? Like where in your body you felt such wisdom and clarity in the midst of all of that other sadness and uncertainty and pain?
In my core.
Yeah.
I knew in my core. It's like my higher self, the Emily that is wise and is above all of like the day-to-day crap.
Yeah.
She knew.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the wiser, higher part of yourself had the assuredness and the clarity. I will end up with a person who loves and admires and adores me. I know that I am worthy and deserving of that. Right. And this pain was coming from the part of you that had to grieve its attachment to all of those other identities. What does it mean to be this person's wife and the mother of his children? And that it seems like all of that might be breaking down currently. And how do I navigate these two truths at the same time? I have all of this pain from what I hoped this relationship would become and what I dreamt it up to be. And it doesn't, how it's operating doesn't fit with what I know to be my wisest and highest truth, which is that I deserve love, admiration, and adoration.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
All of that.
Thank you for sharing that with me and with us. It's
thank you
really
for asking.
tender. I think you probably right now didn't even expect everything that's coming out of you.
No, it's true.
Yeah.
And it is, I always say to people, every past version of you is in you. The little girl, the teenager, the young woman, the woman who's gone through everything. She's in you.
Yeah.
And so she gets to be along for the ride of all of the things that you've learned and all of the wisdom you've gained and what you get to do in life. She gets to be there for it.
Yeah.
And so she's just helped you get here.
Yeah. It's interesting you bring us there because I've been doing some reading lately in the arena of archetypes. Have you
Mm.
heard about or read about like the archetypes?
I
Um,
know of them, but not a lot.
the book I'm currently reading is by a woman named Carol Pearson, and it's called Awakening the Heroes Within. So
Oh.
I think in the School of Psychology, this archetype work started with Carl Jung. And then in today's world of spirituality, it gets really written about and forwarded and talked about with Joseph Campbell, who I know that his podcast you've been listening to. But what you just
Mhm.
were describing as you kind of walked us through some past versions of you, they line this up, especially for women, as we have these developmental sort of stages that we go through: the maiden, the mother, the queen, and the crone. Um, and then there's more to it than that. I'm learning from this Awakenings book because it sounds like there's also a whole developmental stage for something called the Wanderer, which is where I think I may have been in recent years. But this thing relative to the maiden, mother, queen, and crone, it sounds to me like you resonate with. And it was this breakdown for you would have been in your developmental stage between mother and queen.
Mhm.
And so it's like, how do I navigate what it means to me to lose this marriage, what it means to my identity as a mother and a wife to let this marriage dissolve? And at the same time, it needed to in order for you to claim your queen,
Right.
which is this part of you that's able to stand up and go, I deserve to be admired and adored
Mm.
and cherished and respected.
Yeah. I want to read that book.
We'll do that next time on Tribe Talks Book Club, right? Stay tuned. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What would you tell yourself from 10 years ago?
Switching over to me.
Mhm.
Hopefully most people listen more than they do see us because you make my tears flow, girl.
Me too.
Um, what would I tell? It's interesting to be asked this question while I still feel like I'm in the space in between.
Mhm.
Um, if we go back to the identities and the developmental milestones and archetypes, I feel like I have not completely landed in whomever it is that I may be becoming in this chapter in my life. But
Mhm.
if I stay with the question and think back to 10 years ago, me, well, 10 years ago, I would have been just at the beginning of some big career achievement, if you will, like we talked about on one of our last episodes. I would have just been at the beginning stages of taking on that role with building the learning and development system for human services. So, what would I have said to her? It feels something like hold it all with grace. And for me, what that means is notice everything while not becoming attached to any of it. None of what you're up to and what you're doing is, and so a little bit of distance or detachment um, feels like medicine. I think I was 10 years ago at a time in my life where what I was able to accomplish externally really fed how I thought or believed about myself internally. And the trouble with that is when your external circumstances fall apart, it can feel like you are falling apart. I now recognize life happens in service of our greatest good. Like everything that we are up to creating and building, I think now is for your own sake, to learn
Mhm.
something more about yourself, to, like as I experience relationship, I notice like relationships, all of them, whether folks are your colleagues and business partners or friends and intimate partners or children or parents or siblings, they're like teachers that are
Right.
appearing all around me all of the time, that are showing me what I'm attracted to, what I want more of, what is trying to grow or become in me, also what I reject, what doesn't
Yeah.
serve me, what I don't want to be with or around, where my own tolerance levels live, what I can be with and in what quantity and how much before I need to have some self-recovery,
Yeah.
something that feels more restorative, like how much I can give away before I need to go refuel. This is what I mean by hold all of it
Mhm.
with grace and with less attachment. Um,
Yeah.
See everything and everyone who comes in and goes out of your life as a teachable moment for you.
Mm.
And whether you would judge the person, place, or circumstance as good or bad, like don't judge anything or
Yeah.
anyone as good or bad. Instead, observe what the truth of it is and then put it through you to decide how and if you want to continue to be with it.
Mm.
That's what I think I'd say. I think my conversation with my 10 ago year self would be more of a conversation than a one-liner. But I really want her to know that um, she's valuable
Mhm.
and matters in the world.
She's valuable and she's not defined by the work she's doing. She is valuable in that work and valuable in all
Yeah.
ways.
It's like you and I were together this weekend and we interacted with a person briefly that we came away from and went to each other. That didn't feel good. And what I loved about the conversation we had is we didn't need to make how it didn't feel good about anyone. Like we didn't go on and on with crushing or being critical of that other person.
Yeah.
But what we did instead, and I love this moment for us, what we did instead was what did we notice about that interaction, about how it made
Yeah.
us feel?
Why didn't it feel
And why
good
didn't
was
it
more of
feel
the
good?
question. Like, what was it about that interaction that made me feel like,
Yeah,
oh, I don't feel good?
yeah. And then from there, we noticed, well, here's where something got said that felt a lot like judgment. And here's where something
Yeah.
got said that felt really constraining. Or here's where something
Hmm.
got said that felt a little harsh to me, or whatever it was. But like, we didn't need to judge her. We were
Right.
just able to notice the impact that the interaction had on us. And from there, say, we don't want more of that.
Yeah. And that's okay.
To me, that feels like freedom.
Yes.
When I can travel through life with ease and
Mm.
detachment and lightness and decide what I want more of in my life and what I don't want more of in my life, and then continue traveling forward while making no one and nothing, including myself, bad or wrong, it feels like
Yeah.
freedom.
Yeah. It does.
Yeah. And so, what I want to say to my 10-year ago self is I found the path to freedom. Come along, little one. I know the way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know the way. We
exactly.
got this.
We want to do one more?
Yeah. Let's do a fun one.
Okay. What movies have you watched more than 3 times?
I've watched a lot of movies more than three
Uh-huh.
times. However, when I was a kid, there were two movies that came on like maybe every weekend, but at least one or two weekends a month on Channel 2 in Denver.
Uh-huh.
And one was Fame.
Oh, Fame! Fame!
Yeah, I love that
Me
movie.
too!
Yeah. And the other was Dirty Dancing.
Uh-huh. Dance movies. You have a
Yeah,
dancer
dance
inside
movies.
of you?
Oh, oh, that's the third thing that makes me weird. I will dance. Like I just like dance and like create whatever,
Yeah,
like my own interpretive dance.
yeah,
Yes, there is a dancer inside of me.
yeah. I have one of those
Yeah.
too. We haven't talked about this before. I think we might need a dance party.
We need a dance
Oh
party.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was a dancer as a little girl. I like kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth grade took like tap, jazz, ballet.
Me too.
Yes. And you
Yeah.
know what's sad? I think this was like one of the first examples of some of what we're talking about, where the external messaging got in me in a way that changed the trajectory of my life. So I'm and we could call this a superpower, or we could also call it kryptonite for me. But I tend to
Yeah.
be a little like eccentric, like kind of quirky, and maybe a little bit odd in how I am in the world, and especially how I move my body. You know, I'm the girl who one time I was walking out of a Sam's Club with my boyfriend at the time, and I got distracted by something that was happening in the parking lot, and I crashed the cart right into one of those like ceramic pillars that they have, and like banged the cart into it, and then banged my body into the cart even before I knew what was happening. All of that is to say that I'm quirky. And so when I was a dancer as a younger girl, I don't know that the ballerinas appreciated the quirky way that I moved my body across the floor
Yeah.
or across the stage. And so I stopped taking dance lessons. And I love to
Oh,
dance. I'm a unicorn on the dance floor, of course, but that doesn't change the fact that my body loves to move freely to the beat of music. We
yeah.
need to have a dance party.
Oh, we definitely need a dance
And
party.
Fame and Dirty Dancing are two of my favorite movies too. So
I love it.
yeah.
I love it. Were those the movies you would name, or do you have different
Oh,
ones?
I probably would have different ones to answer this question, but I used to watch Fame on repeat as a kid because I think I dreamt of growing up and being them. Like I wanted to go to a college for the performing arts and just dance for the rest of my life. I just didn't, I told myself a story that I didn't have the
Yeah.
talent. Probably
Oh,
based on these messages that I got
right.
when I was a kid. Who knows if my talent could have been developed in that way? Surely there's room on the
Mhm.
stage for those of us that are quirky and eccentric in terms of how we move our body. Um, yeah, but I have a handful of movies that they're the kind of movies that if I'm just sort of surfing the channels and I find that they're on cable, I'll watch them again and again and again. One is The American President.
Oh,
Have you seen it with Michael Douglas and
yep.
Annette Bening? It's one of my favorites. I cry every time I see it to this day. It's a love story, but it's also a leadership story. And I think we might be uncovering that these are two of my favorite things, when love and leadership. And then another one is When Harry Met Sally.
I can see you watching that over and over.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And then one more that comes to mind, and I did just watch this, I think 2 weekends ago, is Remember the Titans.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know that one with Denzel
Yes.
Washington? I
Yep.
love that movie. And, I think the thing for me is this is just a character trait is I am inspired by one, human connection, but also when human connection makes dreams come true. And especially when it helps the underdog to become the champion. So I love shows like American Idol and The Voice and America's Got Talent. And it just makes me really tearful, like in a way that makes my heart spill over when I get to see a person doing a brave thing and then getting to witness their dream coming true.
Isn't that what this is all about? Being brave and witnessing your own dream come true as you witness others?
Yeah. Helping your own dreams come true and then maybe reaching back or lifting up someone
Mm.
else to
At the
help them
same
have the
time.
same. Yeah.
Hmm.
That's what I think my life is all about.
Yeah.
And I'm good with it. I'm
Me
fulfilled
too.
and satisfied by that mission. So good connecting with you today.
You too. Thank you for
And I
this.
hope we've offered to people how easy it can be to just start with some curiosity, playfulness, detachment to there being any one right answer, and what you can learn about someone that you think you already know so well, um, and how much it can. My heart feels full.
My heart feels full too.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kasey.
Thank you. Stirred listeners, thank you so much for joining us today as we bring you stories of growth in the human experience. We appreciate you, and we have a request for you. If you will take 30 seconds to do these 3 things for us. 1, follow or subscribe to SoulStirredPodcast. This makes sure you never miss an episode and helps us to make sure you never miss an episode. Head over to your preferred platform, click the SoulStirred Podcast show page, and click the plus sign or the follow button. Second, we'd love it if you could give us a 5-star rating while you're there. Finally, choose your favorite episode and share it with a friend.
We are so grateful to all of our listeners for your continued support helping SoulStirred grow and ultimately inspire others through authentic connection. Don't hesitate to reach out with ideas, stories, or questions. We are always eager to hear from you. Our email and social links are found in every episode's show notes. Until next time, keep stirring your soul and embracing your journey.
Take good care of yourselves and of each other. Bye-bye.